When you make the decision to move on, it's not just a change in your circumstances, it's a shift in your entire state of being. Moving on isn't a sign of weakness, nor does it mean you're running away from the challenges life has thrown at you. On the contrary, it is an act of profound strength. It takes immense courage to step away from something that no longer serves your growth, no matter how deeply rooted it may be in your life. It's about realizing that staying in a situation that drains your energy and peace is far more damaging than the discomfort of letting go. Moving on is a declaration to yourself and the world that you deserve better. It's about understanding your worth and refusing to settle for less than you deserve. It's not always about leaving because you no longer care. Sometimes you still care deeply, but you care about yourself more. This is where the real power lies. Not in clinging to something familiar out of fear, but in embracing the unknown because you trust yourself to handle it. It's a conscious choice to prioritize your mental, emotional, and even physical well-being over the comfort of staying in a place that has become toxic, stagnant, or unfulfilling. When you move on, you reclaim control over your narrative. You stop allowing someone else's actions or lack thereof to dictate your happiness. You realize that your joy, peace, and fulfillment are not tied to anyone else, but are instead cultivated from within. It's a liberating moment when you stop waiting for someone else to change or for circumstances to improve and decide that you are going to create your own path forward. This act of moving on is transformative because it requires you to face your fears, doubts, and insecurities head on. It demands that you confront the part of yourself that wants to cling to familiarity, even when that familiarity is causing you pain. The power of moving on lies in the fact that it shifts your focus. When you're stuck in a situation that isn't serving you, your energy is consumed by trying to fix, manage, or tolerate it. You spend so much time trying to make things work or hoping for change that you lose sight of what truly matters, your growth, your happiness, and your potential. But when you decide to move on, you redirect all that energy inward. You begin to invest in yourself instead of a situation or person that isn't reciprocating your efforts. This shift in focus is what propels you forward. It's what allows you to rebuild and rise stronger than before. Moving on also breaks the cycle of emotional dependence. Often we stay in situations because we've convinced ourselves that we need the other person or the circumstances to feel whole. But when you move on, you challenge that narrative. You force yourself to find strength within, to stand on your own, and to trust in your ability to create a fulfilling life without relying on external factors. It's not easy at first. In fact, it can feel incredibly lonely and uncertain. But as you take one step forward, then another, you begin to realize just how capable you are. You discover a resilience within yourself that you may not have known existed. And with every step, you become stronger, more confident, and more self-assured. What's remarkable about moving on is how it transforms your perspective. The very things that once seemed so important, the validation, the approval, the attention, start to lose their hold over you. You begin to see that your worth isn't defined by anyone else's recognition or acknowledgement. You start to value yourself for who you are, not for how others perceive you. This shift in perspective is incredibly freeing. It allows you to let go of the need to prove yourself to anyone else and instead focus on proving to yourself just how extraordinary you can be. Moreover, moving on is an act of self-love. It's saying to yourself, I am worthy of peace, happiness, and fulfillment, and I refuse to settle for anything less. It's an acknowledgement that you have the power to create the life you want, even if it means walking away from something you once thought you couldn't live without. It's about choosing yourself unapologetically and wholeheartedly because you understand that you are your greatest investment. The strength to move on doesn't come all at once. It's built over time through small, courageous decisions to let go of what no longer serves you. It's in the moments when you resist the urge to look back, even when nostalgia tempts you. It's in the times when you choose to face the discomfort of starting over instead of staying stuck in a situation that feels familiar but unfulfilling. Each of these choices reinforces your strength and helps you build the life you deserve. When you move on, you don't just walk away from something, you step into something greater. You step into your power, your potential, and your truth. You become the architect of your own life, unshackled by the constraints of what once held you back. And in doing so, you set an example for others. You show them what it means to honor yourself, to trust in your ability to thrive, and to prioritize your peace above all else. Moving on is not just an act of self-preservation, it's an act of self-empowerment. When you move on, it creates a ripple effect that is often more profound than you might expect. The person you leave behind is left to confront a void, one that they may not have anticipated, understood, or even acknowledged until your absence became undeniable. At first, it may seem like nothing has changed. They might continue with their life as if your decision had no impact, carrying on as though you were just another fleeting moment in their world. But the truth is, when someone who brought light, energy, and authenticity into their life is no longer there, the emptiness begins to creep in. It doesn't happen all at once. It builds slowly, quietly, and undeniably. The absence of someone who genuinely cared is not something you can replace with superficial distractions. It's not something you can fill with temporary fixes like new people, hobbies, or routines. At first, they might try to mask it by pretending everything is fine. They might tell themselves they're better off without the connection, convincing themselves that they don't miss you or that losing you wasn't a big deal. But the mind has a way of circling back to the truth, especially in the stillness of the quiet moments. That's when the regret starts to take shape, not as a sudden realization, but as a gnawing feeling that grows stronger with time. What they face after you move on is not just the loss of a person, it's the loss of the unique value you brought into their life. Your presence might have been a source of stability, encouragement, or inspiration. Perhaps you were the one who always listened, the one who uplifted them when they felt down, or the one who saw their potential when they couldn't see it themselves. When that kind of presence is gone, it leaves a gap that's not easily filled. When they may find themselves searching for that same energy in other people, but it's never quite the same. They begin to realize that the connection you offered wasn't something they could replicate with just anyone. This realization often leads to moments of deep reflection. They start replaying past interactions, thinking about what they said or didn't say, and questioning the decisions they made. They may find themselves asking why they didn't appreciate you more when they had the chance. Regret can be a heavy burden, and it's one they carry in silence. People rarely admit the full weight of their regrets to others, especially when it involves losing someone who is good to them. Instead, they keep it to themselves, letting it simmer beneath the surface while outwardly pretending everything is fine. The void they face after you've moved on is amplified by the sudden absence of what they once took for granted. When you're always there for someone, they can grow accustomed to your kindness, support, and presence. It becomes easy for them to overlook the effort and energy you poured into the relationship because they assumed it would always be there. But once you're gone, the things they once took for granted become glaringly obvious. They start to notice the little things they never thanked you for, the thoughtful gestures, the moments of understanding, and the sacrifices you made without expecting anything in return. It's in your absence that they begin to understand the full extent of your value. They might try to distract themselves by diving into work, socializing with new people, or engaging in activities that temporarily take their mind off the void. But no matter how busy they make themselves, there are moments when reality catches up to them. Perhaps it's when they come across something that reminds them of you, a song, a place, or even a random comment from a friend. These triggers bring back memories. And with those memories comes the undeniable truth. You were someone special, and they didn't treat you as such. One of the most difficult things for them to face is the realization that they may never get another chance with you. Once you've moved on, you're no longer accessible in the way you once were. The dynamic has shifted, and the door that was once open to them has now closed. This realization can be a harsh wake-up call. They might feel a sense of panic or desperation, wishing they could go back and undo their mistakes. But by the time they truly understand what they've lost, it's often too late. Your decision to move on wasn't made lightly. And it's not something you're likely to reverse just because they've finally started to see your worth. This internal struggle is something they face alone. They might never admit it to anyone else, but the impact of your absence is undeniable. It forces them to confront parts of themselves they might have been avoiding, whether it's their inability to appreciate others, their selfish tendencies, or their fear of vulnerability. Your decision to move on becomes a mirror for them, reflecting their shortcomings and pushing them to confront the consequences of their actions. In some cases, they might try to reconnect with you, hoping to mend what was broken. But more often than not, the dynamic has changed too much for things to go back to the way they were. They might find themselves watching from the sidelines as you thrive without them, wondering what could have been if only they had treated you differently. It's a painful lesson, but one that often leaves a lasting impression. When you step away and choose to move forward, one of the most profound effects is how your absence forces the other person to confront their own behavior. Whether they realized it in the moment or not, the way they treated you begins to come into focus, and they start to see the consequences of their actions or inactions more clearly. This realization doesn't come all at once. It's a gradual process, often starting as a faint awareness and growing into a persistent discomfort that they can no longer ignore. At first, they may try to justify their behavior to themselves. They might tell themselves that the way they acted wasn't wrong, or that their decisions were valid given the circumstances. They may convince themselves that you overreacted, that the situation wasn't as serious as it seemed, or that they didn't really do anything wrong. This kind of self-justification is a natural defense mechanism, one designed to protect their ego from the weight of guilt or regret. But as time passes, those justifications start to lose their strength. The mind, when left in silence, has a way of replaying events, forcing them to revisit the moments where they could have made different choices. It's in those quiet moments that they begin to confront the truth. Your absence becomes a catalyst for self-reflection, whether they wanted to or not. They start to see the small, seemingly insignificant ways they may have contributed to the breakdown of the relationship. Perhaps they realized they didn't express gratitude, or that they were too quick to criticize and too slow to support. Maybe they remember times when you reached out for connection and they brushed you off, thinking they'd have endless opportunities to make it right. These memories, once dismissed, now hold a different weight. They carry the realization that their actions or lack of actions played a role in pushing you away. One of the most challenging things for them to face is the realization that their behavior wasn't as innocent as they once believed. They start to see how their words may have cut deeper than they intended, how their silence in moments of importance might have conveyed indifference, and how their inability to truly be present might have communicated a lack of care. These realizations are not easy to face. They force them to acknowledge parts of themselves that they may have been avoiding, parts that are flawed, selfish, or fearful. As they reflect on their behavior, they may also start to see patterns. Perhaps this isn't the first time they've treated someone this way. Maybe they've noticed a recurring tendency to take people for granted or to push away those who care about them. This awareness can be both eye-opening and unsettling. It shines a light on the deeper issues they've been carrying, issues that may stem from insecurity, unresolved pain, or an inability to fully trust others. Your decision to move on becomes a mirror for them, reflecting not just what they did in the relationship, but who they are as a person. The guilt that comes with this realization can be overwhelming. It's not just about what they lost when you left. It's about the role they played in that loss. They begin to see how their behavior didn't just hurt you, it also hurt them. By not showing up for the relationship in the way they should have, they deprive themselves of the chance to build something meaningful and lasting. This recognition can be a difficult pill to swallow. It forces them to confront the fact that they had something valuable and let it slip through their fingers. What makes this process even more challenging is the inability to go back and change things. Once you've moved on, the dynamic has shifted and the opportunity to make amends may no longer be there. This sense of finality amplifies their regret as they come to terms with the fact that their behavior had permanent consequences. They may wish they could reach out to you, apologize, or explain themselves, but they also know that words can't undo the past. This leaves them in a state of emotional limbo, grappling with the weight of their actions and the loss of what could have been. The process of confronting their behavior often leads to a deeper understanding of their own shortcomings. They begin to see how their fear of vulnerability, need for control, or inability to communicate effectively created barriers in the relationship. These realizations can be painful, but they also hold the potential for growth. If they're willing to sit with their discomfort and learn from it, they may start to make changes. Changes that not only benefit their future relationships, but also help them grow as individuals. However, not everyone is ready or willing to face this level of introspection. For some, the discomfort is too much to bear, and they may revert to denial or blame. They might tell themselves that you were the problem, that you expected too much, or that the relationship was doomed from the start. This kind of thinking may provide temporary relief, but it doesn't address the deeper issues at play. Without taking responsibility for their actions, they're likely to repeat the same patterns in future relationships, continuing the cycle of hurt and loss. For those who do choose to confront their behavior, the journey isn't easy. It requires humility, self-awareness, and a willingness to face uncomfortable truths. It's about more than just acknowledging their mistakes. It's about understanding why they made those mistakes in the first place. This kind of growth doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow, often painful process that requires them to look inward and take accountability for their actions. But in doing so, they open the door to transformation. An opportunity to become someone who values and nurtures the connections they have rather than taking them for granted. When you step away from someone's life, the weight of your absence begins to manifest in ways they never anticipated. They find themselves facing the loss of what they took for granted. The care, energy, and presence you once freely gave. This absence becomes a vacuum, creating a space where they must now come face to face with their own inadequacy. The things they never appreciated, the small acts of kindness they overlooked, and the emotional support they barely noticed suddenly become glaring voids in their daily existence. This process is not immediate. It unfolds gradually, with each passing day serving as a stark reminder of what they have lost. At first, they might not fully comprehend the impact of your absence. They may assume that life will simply go on as it always has, that they will adjust, and that their routine will remain unshaken. But as time stretches on, they begin to feel the ripple effects of your departure. The conversations that once filled their days, the warmth of knowing someone cared deeply for them, and the unspoken understanding you brought to their life all become noticeable by their glaring absence. The silence becomes deafening, and the stillness leaves them unsettled. They may not immediately recognize it, but they are beginning to confront the emotional gap that your presence once filled. This process of reckoning often reveals their dependence on you in ways they never fully acknowledged before. They start to realize how much they leaned on you for validation, encouragement, or simply as a steady presence in their lives. You may have been the person they turned to when things went wrong, the one who lifted them up when they felt low, or the source of inspiration when they doubted themselves. Without you there, they are left to navigate these moments alone, and the absence of your support forces them to examine the void you've left behind. It is in this space that they begin to recognize how much they undervalued the role you played in their life. As they grapple with the loss, they may also come to see the imbalance that existed in the relationship. They start to reflect on the ways they may have taken more than they gave, how they let their own needs and desires overshadow the contributions you made. Perhaps they remember the times they dismissed your concerns or failed to acknowledge your efforts. These realizations are not easy to confront, as they require them to face the uncomfortable truth that they may have been selfish or neglectful. The absence of your presence becomes a mirror, forcing them to look inward and see themselves in a way they never have before. What makes this process particularly difficult for them is the permanence of your absence. While they may have grown accustomed to relying on you, they now find themselves without the option to turn back. This can lead to a profound sense of regret as they begin to understand the magnitude of what they've lost. The moments they once brushed aside now take on a new significance, and the memories of your kindness, patience, and understanding start to weigh heavily on them. They begin to replay interactions in their mind, wondering how things could have been different if they had acted with more appreciation or understanding. The regret they feel often comes with a sense of helplessness, as they realize they cannot simply undo the past. The choices they made, the words they spoke or failed to speak, are now etched into history, and they are left to deal with the consequences of those actions. This can be a painful realization, as it forces them to accept that their behavior had a direct impact on the outcome of the relationship. They may find themselves wishing they had expressed more gratitude, shown more effort, or been more present in the moments that mattered. These thoughts can be overwhelming as they are confronted with the weight of their own shortcomings. As they sit with these feelings, they may also start to question their own identity. They wonder why they acted the way they did, why they were unable to fully appreciate what they had, and why they allowed their own insecurities or fears to dictate their behavior. This self-reflection can be a difficult but necessary step in their journey, as it forces them to confront the parts of themselves they may have been avoiding. They begin to see how their actions were not just a reflection of the relationship, but also of their own inner struggles. In some cases, this process of self-examination can lead to growth. They may begin to recognize patterns in their behavior that have played out in other areas of their life, and they may start to take steps toward change. They might seek to improve their communication skills, work on their emotional intelligence, or address the fears and insecurities that held them back. This kind of growth is not easy, and it requires them to take an honest look at themselves and make a conscious effort to change. But for those who are willing to do the work, it can be a transformative experience. However, not everyone is ready or willing to face this level of introspection. For some, the pain of your absence might be too much to bear, and they may choose to bury their feelings rather than confront them. They might distract themselves with work, relationships, or other pursuits, hoping to fill the void you left behind. But no matter how much they try to avoid it, the absence of your presence lingers, serving as a constant reminder of what they've lost. It is in these moments of quiet reflection, when the distractions fade away, that they are forced to confront the truth. Your absence has changed them in ways they never expected. When you move on and reclaim your energy, the shift is not only personal but also profoundly visible to others, particularly the person who once underestimated or undervalued you. The change begins within. An inner awakening that propels you to refocus on your growth, passions, and goals. As this transformation unfolds, it creates an undeniable ripple effect that is felt by those who once occupied a central place in your life. For them, this shift can be both unsettling and revealing, as it forces them to confront not only the changes in you, but also the areas where they themselves remain stagnant. The process of moving on often begins with a reevaluation of priorities. You stop giving your energy to situations and people that drain you and start investing it into things that bring fulfillment and purpose. This shift in focus is not just a surface level adjustment, it's a deep and meaningful commitment to yourself. As you begin to pour into your own growth, you naturally create a distance from those who have failed to recognize your worth. This withdrawal of your energy becomes glaringly obvious to them, as the dynamic they once relied on no longer exists. The emotional support you provided, the time you sacrificed, and the attention you freely gave are now redirected towards your own endeavors, leaving them with the stark reality of what they no longer have access to. As you grow and evolve, you become a reflection of what they lack. Your progress, whether it's in your career, relationships, or personal well-being, stands as a testament to the strength and resilience they once overlooked. Every achievement, every step forward is a reminder of what they failed to nurture or appreciate. They start to notice the glow that comes from self-love and self-investment, the confidence that grows when you stop seeking validation from others and instead find it within yourself. This transformation is not something they can ignore, as it disrupts the narrative they may have created about you. They can no longer see you as someone who needed them or depended on their approval. Instead, they are faced with the reality of your independence and the undeniable fact that you are thriving without them. This newfound strength and focus often evoke a mix of emotions in them. On one hand, they may feel a sense of regret as they realize what they have lost. They start to remember the times when you were there for them, the ways you supported them, and the contributions you made to their life. These memories can be painful because they highlight the gap between who you were and who you've become. On the other hand, your transformation may also trigger feelings of inadequacy or insecurity. As they witness your growth, they are forced to confront the areas in their own life where they have remained stagnant. Your progress becomes a mirror reflecting their own lack of effort or growth. And this realization can be deeply uncomfortable. For some, this discomfort manifests as an attempt to reestablish a connection with you. They may try to reach out, hoping to regain access to the energy and support you once provided. They might use nostalgia, apologies, or even flattery to pull you back into their orbit. But by this point, you have likely developed the clarity to see through these attempts. You recognize the patterns and understand that their sudden interest is not necessarily rooted in genuine change, but rather in a reaction to your absence and the void it has created in their life. This understanding gives you the strength to maintain your boundaries and continue prioritizing your own growth. Your transformation doesn't just affect the person who took you for granted. It also influences those around you. Friends, family, and colleagues begin to take notice of the positive changes in your life. Your confidence and determination become an inspiration to others, showing them what is possible when you choose to prioritize yourself. This ripple effect extends far beyond the initial relationship, as your growth encourages others to reflect on their own lives and make changes where needed. In this way, your decision to move on and reclaim your energy becomes a catalyst for growth, not only for yourself, but for those around you as well. Meanwhile, the person who underestimated you is left to grapple with their own emotions. They may feel a sense of loss, regret, or even jealousy as they watch you thrive. These feelings can be compounded by the realization that they no longer have the ability to influence or control you. The power dynamics have shifted, and they are now in the position of observing from the sidelines as you move forward with your life. This shift can be a humbling experience for them, as it forces them to confront the consequences of their actions or inactions. The impact of your transformation is not limited to the emotional realm, it also has practical implications. The person who underestimated you may begin to see how your absence affects their daily life. The support you once provided, whether it was emotional, logistical, or even financial, is no longer available to them. They are left to navigate their challenges without the safety net you once represented. This realization can be a wake-up call, prompting them to reflect on their own behavior and the ways they contributed to the loss of the relationship. For some, this reflection may lead to personal growth and a commitment to change. For others, it may simply serve as a painful reminder of what they have lost. Your decision to move on and focus on yourself also serves as a powerful statement about your worth. It sends a clear message that you will no longer tolerate being undervalued or taken for granted. This message is not just for the person who underestimated you. It's for anyone who crosses your path. It sets a standard for how you expect to be treated and establishes boundaries that protect your energy and well-being. This shift in mindset is empowering, as it allows you to approach relationships from a place of strength rather than need or desperation. In the end, your transformation is about more than just proving a point or eliciting a reaction from others. It's about reclaiming your power, rediscovering your potential, and creating a life that aligns with your values and aspirations. The impact of this journey extends far beyond the person who once underestimated you, touching every aspect of your life and inspiring those around you to embark on their own paths of growth and self-discovery. The moment you move on, something significant begins to unfold, not just within you, but in the dynamic you shared with the other person. What they face in your absence is often a series of realizations and internal conflicts that force them to reevaluate their own behavior, choices, and most importantly, what they lost when they lost you. This isn't just about you taking your power back, but also about them feeling the impact of your absence on multiple levels. It's as though a vacuum is created, one that was once filled by your presence, energy, and the value you brought to their life. They start to confront an undeniable truth. You were an integral part of their world, whether they admitted it at the time or not. The first thing they notice is the silence, literal and emotional. The calls or messages they used to receive from you, checking in or offering support, suddenly stop. The warmth and care that flowed so freely from you are no longer there, leaving behind an eerie stillness. This absence speaks volumes, louder than any confrontation or argument could have. It forces them to sit with their thoughts, to reflect on the role you played in their life. For someone who has taken you for granted, this silence can be unsettling, even jarring. They might try to fill it with distractions or other relationships, but the unique connection they shared with you remains irreplaceable. Your absence becomes a constant reminder of what they no longer have, and this can lead to an internal struggle as they begin to question their own actions and decisions. Next comes the realization of their dependence on you, something they may not have even recognized when you were around. Perhaps they relied on you for emotional support, guidance, or even a sense of stability. You were the one who encouraged them during tough times, who saw their potential and reminded them of it when they doubted themselves. When you walk away, they are left to navigate these challenges alone. And it's often only then that they truly understand the depth of your contribution to their life. This realization can be both humbling and painful for them. They may start to see you in a new light, not as someone who needed them, but as someone they needed more than they were willing to admit. As they watch you move forward with your life, a sense of regret often begins to set in. They start to think about the opportunities they missed to appreciate you, the moments they could have handled differently, and the ways they could have shown you the respect and care you deserved. This regret is not just about losing you, but also about the missed potential of what the relationship could have been. This regret is not just about losing you, but also about the missed potential of what the relationship could have been. They begin to replay events in their mind, looking for the turning points where things went wrong. This process of reflection can be a heavy burden to bear, as it forces them to confront their own shortcomings and the role they played in pushing you away. In some cases, they may try to mask these feelings by pretending they don't care or by seeking validation elsewhere. They might put on a front of indifference, acting as though your absence doesn't affect them, but deep down, the impact of your departure is undeniable. The void you left behind cannot be filled so easily, and no amount of superficial distractions can erase the lessons your absence is teaching them. Over time, even they cannot deny the emotional toll of losing someone as significant as you. This internal conflict often creates a ripple effect in their life, affecting not just their emotions, but also their behavior and interactions with others. The most profound shift occurs when they see you thriving without them. Your growth and transformation become a stark contrast to the stagnation they might feel in their own life. They watch as you rebuild, as you pour your energy into yourself and achieve things they may have never thought possible. Your success, whether it's personal, professional, or emotional, becomes a mirror for them to see their own lack of progress. This can be both inspiring and unsettling for them, as it highlights the difference between someone who chooses to grow and someone who remains stuck in old patterns. This process often leads to an identity crisis for the person who once took you for granted. They start to question who they are without you in their life. Your presence may have provided them with a sense of purpose or validation, and without it, they are left to redefine themselves. This can be a difficult and confusing journey as it forces them to confront parts of themselves they may have been avoiding. They may begin to see how much of their identity was tied to the relationship and how much they relied on you to fill gaps in their own self-worth. As they go through this process, they may reach out to you either to seek closure or to try to rebuild the connection. They might express their regret, apologize for their behavior, or attempt to win you back with promises of change. However, by this point, you have likely grown so much that their words no longer carry the weight they once did. You can see through their intentions and understand that their desire to reconnect is not necessarily about you, but about their own discomfort with the consequences of their actions. The ultimate irony is that the very strength and independence they once overlooked in you are now the qualities they admire the most. They begin to see you as the powerful, self-sufficient individual you always were, even if they failed to acknowledge it at the time. This recognition can be bittersweet for them, as it comes with the understanding that they no longer have a place in your life. They are left to watch from a distance as you continue to rise, a reminder of what they lost and what they could have appreciated when they had the chance. This journey of realization and regret is not one they can escape. It's a natural consequence of their actions, a reflection of the choices they made and the person they failed to value. Your absence becomes a lesson for them, teaching them not only about the importance of treating others with respect and care, but also about the power of self-worth and personal growth.